Christ the Lord has risen. He has risen indeed. These are the words that we all love to say on Easter morning. Easter comes with all kinds of memories. I can think of some I would like to share. Well, first is that, singing Christ the Lord has risen today on Easter morning in the congregation, filled with people. What a joyous celebration that has been. I think every year on Easter, ever since I was a small boy, I remember singing Christ the Lord is risen today in church. And then there was the time that my grandma, Lola Miller, had figured out where the treasure chest was in the annual family Easter egg hunt, and how she ran down the hill to the bird of paradise plants. We never knew she could run that fast. And then there was the sad story of my son, who on the Monday after Easter came home and asked, "Mom, Dad, is our Easter bunny poor?" It seems like all his friends had gotten great gifts from the Easter bunny, and he had only gotten some candy and a couple dollars. He felt a little bit gypped on that Easter. But this Easter, we find ourselves much like the first disciples on that first Easter. They were scattered. They were huddled in their own homes, and they were wondering what had just happened. After all, after the crucifixion of Jesus, the disciples had scattered and were afraid. Only a few remained and talked and seemed to know what was going on. Some would say only a few really cared about what had happened to Jesus. In the Gospel of John, we find these words. But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother, and his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." And then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her to his own home. So at the crucifixion, only a few of Jesus' followers remained. Mary Magdalene, his mother, his aunt, and the youngest disciple whom he loved, who was John, the writer of this gospel. The other disciples had scattered. And we know what happened after this. Jesus died, he was taken off the cross, and he was buried. We know that the soldiers gambled for his clothes, and many other indignities happened to this King of the Jews, as Pilate had called him. So Saturday passed, and then came Sunday. And let's hear what happened next. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. And as she wept, she stopped to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white, sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head and one at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "Because they have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." Saying this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing, but she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom do you seek?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you had carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not hold me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brethren and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and said to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them that he had said these things to her. Of all the followers of Jesus, Mary Magdalene would be the least likely person to be chosen to prove to everyone that Jesus had risen from the dead. She had a number of strikes against her. First of all, Jesus first met her when she had been possessed by 7 demons, which means she had an extreme case of demonic oppression. Who would believe someone who had been filled with demons? But she had been healed and became a follower of Jesus. Then, of course, the fact that she was a woman would also be a strike against her, because in those days, a woman was not even eligible to testify in a court of law. So she would not have been seen as a very credible witness. But yet, here, in our story in John, we see that indeed she is the first to witness the resurrection. And she recognizes his voice when she says, Rabboni, teacher. And Jesus says, yes, it is me. Go and tell the rest of the disciples, which she did. We see then that God follows this pattern throughout the Gospels, throughout the whole biblical narrative. He always seems to pick the most unlikely person to be his followers and to be ones who proclaim messages of hope. There was David, the shepherd boy who defeated Goliath on behalf of his nation and became the king of Israel. There was Peter, who denied knowing Jesus 3 times, but after the resurrection became the leader of the early church. And there was Saul, who was persecuting the believers of Jesus, but on the road to Damascus he saw Jesus, gave his life to him, and became the leader of the missionary movement of the church. And then we have here Mary Magdalene. So what about us today? What witness do we have to share with those around us? On this Easter day, this most unusual Easter day, you are a witness to those around you. It may not be many people. It may be a couple friends or your family members or someone you call on the phone, someone with whom you are in contact with. What will you have to say on this Easter? Oh, yes, it's very easy for us to feel sad and to feel upset that we are not able to be in worship together. It's very easy to wonder what our future will look like. When will we get to meet again as a congregation? Not only our congregation, but as Christians around the world. Jesus would say to us, I'm here with each of you, no matter where you are. Be filled with joy, for today is a day of celebration. Christ the Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. Hallelujah.